Hello everyone, I'm Liam and welcome to the Cine Review Hub channel. Today, as is our weekly routine, we're taking a look at the latest events that have happened in the cinema world, from trending TV series to the top-grossing films at the box office. For the first news item, we should talk about the trending series that are about to release new seasons. The most important one that was widely discussed last week was the series Stranger Things, specifically its 5th season. The strange information that has emerged is that each episode apparently had a $60 million budget. With this, the total budget for the entire season was close to $480 million. The interesting point here is that the first season of this series had a $48 million budget, meaning that over the course of 5 seasons, the film's budget has increased tenfold. This budget has made the series the most expensive in history, as it is the only series to have spent $500 million for a single season. Even the Lord of the Rings series, which previously held this record, was only set to spend $1 billion for its 4 seasons. This season has other interesting points as well. Apparently, each episode will have a runtime between 1.5 to 2 hours, and the final episode will be over 2 hours long. This season only has 8 episodes in total and will be released in 3 separate parts. The first 4 episodes are set to be released on November 26th. The remaining episodes, excluding the finale, are set to be released on December 25th, and the final episode is scheduled for December 31st. Another Netflix series that was talked about a lot last week was Peaky Blinders, as it was confirmed that a continuation of this series will be made, and they've already renewed it for a second season before the first one is even built. Each season will have 6 one-hour episodes. The story is set to take place in 1953, after the events of the main series, and the original Peaky Blinders characters will no longer be present. It will portray the new generation and the next generation of the Shelbys. So we'll see what happens to this family after the Second World War. The interesting thing is that the original series creator will be making this new series too, and Cillian Murphy is set to be an executive producer. From Netflix's competitor HBO, 2 series also made headlines last week. One was the release of new official images for the series A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Apparently, this series has many differences from the other Game of Thrones spin-offs. Firstly, there will be no more opening title sequence, and we won't be hearing that famous Game of Thrones music. Furthermore, for the first time, we're going to hear a Game of Thrones story without any talk of kings, royalty, or the seat of power. The director himself said, "I promised George R.R. Martin that this series would portray the story of the poor class and the common people of Westeros, and would not go after the kings and lords." They said it will also be completely faithful to the original novel. The story of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is about a knight named Sir Duncan the Tall, who travels with Aegon V Targaryen, who would become the grandfather of the Mad King. You can understand here that the story of this series takes place 50 years before Game of Thrones. These two will travel together and we will see their adventures. The series is set to begin airing exactly at the beginning of 2026, starting in January.
But I mentioned there were 2 pieces of news from HBO. The second one is a short update. The first official image of Professor Dumbledore, played by John Lithgow, for the Harry Potter series has finally been released online. Filming for this series is still underway, and the series is expected to start airing in the summer of 2027. The last series that was talked about last week was Dexter, which, as we've talked about a lot in the news before, was a very successful continuation of the old series, to the point that its first season received the best scores from the audience's perspective. Michael C. Hall, the lead actor of the series, officially confirmed by releasing a short video of himself that the series has been renewed for its 2nd season, which is also set to air very soon in 2026. For the next news items, it's better to move on to the new films that are coming out. Last week, George Clooney officially announced that the film Ocean's 14 is going to be made, and the same old stars, including Brad Pitt, Julia Roberts, and Matt Damon, are going to return to this film, and apparently the contracts have been closed. George Clooney said, "We got all the budget we needed from the studio, and the film is set to be shot in the summer of 2026. The film's budget is being provided by Warner Bros., but the director is not confirmed, though media outlets guess that David Leitch, the director of Deadpool 2, will probably direct this film. Another old film that is going to have a continuation made is Heat, its second part. If you remember the news from a few weeks ago, I said that Michael Mann was looking to secure the budget for his film, but no one was willing to give him the funding. Amazon had also said, "I'm willing to give you the budget, but only on the condition that Leonardo DiCaprio is in your film." And it has now been officially confirmed that Amazon is going to produce the second part of this film, and DiCaprio is in negotiations to play the lead role. DiCaprio is going to play the character Chris, a role that Val Kilmer played in the first part, and that actor is now deceased. And other very good stars are also in negotiations to join the film, including Austin Butler, Adam Driver, and Bradley Cooper. Of course, their contracts are not yet finalized, and they are still in talks. The film's budget is apparently going to be $170 million. The story of the film is interesting. It does not have a linear storyline and will tell the events before the film Heat as well as the events after it, what happened to the characters and what became of each of them. Filming is set to begin in 2026, and it's planned for a theatrical release in the summer of 2027. Amazon also had a very strange controversy last week that worried many James Bond fans. As we mentioned in last week's news, Amazon bought all the James Bond copyrights all at once, meaning they completely own the brand. Now the company did a strange thing. On Global James Bond Day, it went and changed and somewhat censored the posters for all the James Bond films on its streaming platform. What kind of censorship? They removed all the guns from the James Bond's hands, and also removed all the female characters, which are precisely what constitute the James Bond identity. The Bond girl and the gun are actually two main axes of James Bond, which Amazon took away.
This caused fans to be very upset, and the issue was so widely mocked on the internet that Amazon quickly backed down from what it did and changed the posters back, returning the guns. However, it still insists on its stance and has not changed the posters related to Daniel Craig's films, and the weapons have not been returned yet. This issue has caused discussion in the virtual space that, with this approach, if Amazon wants to make new James Bond installments, it's unclear what strange changes it's going to make. Regarding the sequels that are going to be made, there was also some bad news last week for fans of the Fast and Furious film series. As you probably know, the last parts of this film series were very expensive and were not widely welcomed. For example, the previous installment had a budget of nearly $300 million and barely managed to reach commercial profitability, meaning it narrowly avoided a commercial failure for Universal. Now, Vin Diesel had requested another $340 million budget for the new film, but Universal officially rejected this and said, "You must reduce the budget by $140 million." And the studio said, "I will ultimately give $200 million." The reason for the opposition is that the pre-production stages have been ongoing for 2 years, and Vin Diesel is negotiating with Universal, but the screenplay has not been written yet, and the main actors have not signed contracts yet. This is despite the fact that Vin Diesel constantly talks about this film at every event he attends, saying, "I'm going to bring such and such famous actor for my film." Universal has given Vin Diesel until 2026 to make his decisions for whatever he wants to do, and at the latest, to have the film ready by 2027. The last news about new films that are coming out relates to the John Wick universe. Right now, a whole lot of spin-offs from the John Wick universe are being made, which we've talked about in the news before. A story is going to be made about the character Kane, a cinematic animation of John Wick is going to be made, and John Wick 5 itself is currently being scripted. Now, it has been announced that a samurai western version is also being scripted. This story has nothing to do with the character John Wick himself, but relates to the John Wick universe in the past with new characters. For the next news, it is better to move on to the celebrities. The most viral video of celebrities on the internet last week was related to Cillian Murphy, and you've most likely all seen this video. It was when Cillian Murphy was present on the Graham Norton Show along with Taylor Swift. And on this program, Taylor Swift showed her ring to the public for the first time. Well, Taylor Swift has so many fans that just the ring of this person is a very important piece of news in the celebrity world. But later, Cillian Murphy's facial reaction became completely viral on the internet, even turning into a meme. Because even though he was trying to look like he was interested, you could tell from his eyes that he was completely thinking about how unimportant the subject was. Incidentally, Cillian Murphy's son was also present on this program. And when they talked about Cillian Murphy's son, he was so calm and sat quietly in his seat that the camera operators couldn't find him. Finally, when they managed to find him, many people on the internet said that he is exactly like his father, exactly a smaller version of Cillian Murphy, with the same indifferent look in his eyes towards everything. Another piece of celebrity news relates to Paris Fashion Week, where several things happened. The most interesting of these was the encounter of Charlize Theron with Johnny Depp. The moment Charlize Theron ran into Johnny Depp, she first saw Emmanuel Macron's wife and exchanged kisses with her. Johnny Depp was standing there waiting for Charlize Theron to greet him after the two finished their salutations. Although Johnny Depp greeted Charlize Theron, she ignored him, did not respond, and walked away. This behavior of Charlize Theron received millions of views on social media. The interesting point is that these two previously co-starred in a film called The Astronaut's Wife, which was not very successful and flopped. Now it is guessed on social media why Charlize Theron had this reaction. It is said to be because of the misogynist label placed on Johnny Depp regarding the Amber Heard case. Apparently, Charlize Theron is on Amber Heard's side, which is why she had this encounter with Johnny Depp. Another piece of news that happened at the same Paris Fashion Week relates to Nicole Kidman. Nicole Kidman, who has had a lot of controversy recently due to her sudden divorce, is now attending the Chanel fashion show with her two daughters. One of her daughters is a model, and it's clear that Nicole Kidman attended the event to support her daughter, just as Monica Bellucci and Heidi Klum are doing the same with their own daughters. Newer news has also emerged regarding Nicole Kidman's divorce. One strange piece of news is that it has been revealed that when Nicole Kidman married her second husband, she signed a prenuptial agreement. In this agreement, it was stated that if her husband did not return to drugs, when they divorce, Nicole Kidman must pay her husband $600,000 for every year they lived together. Given that these two had a married life together for 19 years, this means that Nicole Kidman must pay her husband $11 million.
Nicole Kidman's husband has not been living with her in the house since the beginning of the summer, and an interesting thing he did is that, well, the court was supposed to force him to pay alimony, but Nicole Kidman's husband paid all the alimony up to the children's 18th birthday, all at once. This means he did this so he wouldn't have to face Nicole Kidman anymore and has completely cut off communication. Custody of the children has also been given to Nicole Kidman, and they are only allowed to be with their father 59 days a year, spending the rest of the year with their mother. Now, there are many rumors online about the reason for their divorce, and since there is no official news, we cannot say for sure. But what the rumors suggest is that Nicole Kidman's husband has apparently started a relationship with his band's guitarist, and they are now living together in that house. Regarding the same prenuptial agreement, there was an interesting piece of news last week about Selena Gomez's marriage. Apparently, when she married Benny Blanco, they made an agreement that if they ever divorced, Benny Blanco would not receive any money from Selena Gomez's fortune. It might be interesting for you to know that Selena Gomez is a very successful person and has a fortune of $1.3 billion. She is a billionaire because of her cosmetics brand. They both said that they made this agreement not because they doubted each other, but because of the mutual respect they have for each other. They said that Benny Blanco highly respects Selena Gomez because she started from scratch and worked hard for her wealth, and he has no intention of having a share in that fortune. A strange photo of another Hollywood couple also went viral last week. You know that Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck's relationship became very serious twice, and then they separated. Once they actually married, and once they almost got married. Now, these two were once again seen together last week on the red carpet for Jennifer Lopez's new film, Kiss of the Spider Woman. They were talking very warmly with each other, which again led many people to guess that they might have gotten back together. But Jennifer Lopez made a comment a few weeks ago saying that breaking up with Ben Affleck was one of the best things that ever happened in her life, that she feels much better, and that she has generally become a better person since the breakup. Based on these words, it can be guessed that these two are not going to get back together, and the reason they were next to each other was mostly because Ben Affleck is the producer of the film. Another piece of celebrity news consisted of two stories related to artificial intelligence. Robin Williams' daughter issued a second statement asking people to stop making AI videos of Robin Williams and sending them to her. This is the second time she has said this. She previously stated, "Don't do this. I get upset when I see these videos, and your behavior is completely disgusting." Another actor also talked about AI, and that was Keanu Reeves. He also said, "People make videos of me on social media, sending me some of them that are very strange, where I'm doing strange things." He said, "We are living in a world where some people are making videos of us and making money from them, and this is not a good thing. An event similar to The Matrix is happening." As the last celebrity news item, a photo of Jonah Hill's new look went viral.
You know Jonah Hill. You know he co-starred with Leonardo DiCaprio in The Wolf of Wall Street and how fat and overweight he was there. Now, in the new photo that has gone viral, he has lost a significant amount of weight for his new role. The name of his new film is Outcome, and filming is almost finished, so it will probably be ready for release soon. For the next news, it is better to move on to the box office. An interesting event happened last week. Taylor Swift simultaneously went to the top of the cinema box office charts and the top of the Spotify charts. Taylor Swift released the film A Showgirl in 3,700 cinemas. This film is a compilation of some of her music videos along with behind-the-scenes footage and her own discussion about how she wrote these songs, and it grossed $50 million in its first week of release. Her music album also had 250 million listeners. This is the biggest album opening in 2025. The even more interesting point is that this film received an A+ cinema score, a 97 score from Rotten Tomatoes, but a 47 score from Metacritic. The interesting thing is that Taylor Swift took the top spot from the film One Battle After Another. The official title is Magnolia, and this film fell to second place. It is now in its second week of release and managed to sell another $49 million. Its total sales have crossed the $100 million mark. Given that it had a budget of $150 million, it is highly likely to reach commercial profitability in the coming weeks. This film has now become the highest-grossing film in Paul Thomas Anderson's career, even surpassing There Will Be Blood. It was also officially announced that the high-quality version of this film will be released on November 25th, so we can download and watch it then. So far, it has performed very well, receiving 95 from Metacritic, a score of 8.3 from IMDb, with 82,000 people participating in the poll. The interesting thing is that Taylor Swift herself, when she was on the Jimmy Fallon show, praised this film highly after watching it, saying, "Thank God we live in a time when Paul Thomas Anderson is present." Another interesting thing that happened is that many media outlets guessed that Chase Infinity, one of the actors in this film, who is only 24 years old, and this is the first role he has played in his life, might be nominated for an Oscar because of this film. Another film whose name we heard a lot recently was released last week, the film The Smashing Machine, the latest film from Dwayne Johnson, which only grossed $6 million in its first week of release. Given its $50 million budget, it is very likely to become a commercial failure. This event was so unexpected, and all the media outlets guessed that this film would surely make a profit, that Dwayne Johnson reacted to the issue, saying, "In the world of storytelling, you can never manage box office sales. The only thing you can manage is acting and commitment." His point was that we did our job correctly, so if it didn't sell, it's not our fault. Also at the box office, the new film Tron was released last week, and its red carpet premieres were held. Its sales are not particularly special yet, but a video of it went viral. A highly viewed video of Jared Leto seemingly fighting with the Optimus AI robot created by Elon Musk. Now let's move on to the last news items, the toxic news.
The first toxic news item is related to Ridley Scott. In his new interview, Ridley Scott came out and said that films these days are trash. The only films that are good and that I enjoy watching and sit down to watch myself are my own films. My films are truly good. I made them in a way that they never get old. This is quite interesting, and many online users have also pointed out that this director's own recent films are extremely weak, such as Napoleon and Gladiator II. Now, there is an interesting fact about this director. He currently has 8 films under construction, 4 of which are in post-production, meaning 4 of his films are set to be released in 2026 and 2027. The second toxic news item is related to George Clooney. He gave a new interview, and in his interview, he bluntly said, "I've consumed every type of drug you can think of. Everything you can imagine, even the most dangerous ones." And he seriously said, "Well, that's the Hollywood lifestyle." For example, in the 80s, I was acting in a series called Taxi, where me and all the cast members would sit together and use cocaine, because back then, we thought using cocaine was less harmful than heroin. Of course, he said that among all the drugs he used, he didn't like weed and marijuana at all. They were truly not good. Then he was asked why. He said, "I took weed once and we sat down with friends to watch The Wizard of Oz. The effect was so strong that my brain completely exploded. I didn't hear the sound of the movie the whole time. Instead, I heard Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon album in my ears." He said his brain was so messed up that he didn't even question why he was watching the movie without sound, but with music playing instead. Then he said, "I used all the drugs in my life, but it never caused me a serious problem. But I never allowed my children to grow up in that culture. I was afraid something bad would happen to them. That's why we completely packed up and left Hollywood for France, and I raised my children on a farm." Well, friends, that's it for this week's video. I hope it was interesting for you. If you liked the video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel for next week's news. Goodbye.